This is Jonathan Agger for Pro Boxing Fans, joined by former three-weight world champion Duke McKenzie MBE. We saw Nick Bull in action on Saturday night, and there's a lot of talk about him fighting Inoue if Inoue comes up to featherweight. What do you think of that matchup?
Well, let's take this last fight as an example. The last guy that Inoue fought was the same guy that your man Nick Ball fought, right? Inoue beat the living daylights out of that kid, right? And Nick Ball seemed to struggle for large parts in that fight. So you got to see things for what they are. Nick Ball's a good fighter in his own right, he is. But right now, I wouldn't be calling out Inoue. I wouldn't be calling him out at all. I would try and get a few defenses in first before I even think about fighting. Inoue, he's a real throwback. He is. He hits hard. He boxes well. He's got good stamina. Okay, he's never boxed outside of his backyard, but he doesn't have to right now. But they're talking about him going to another country to fight, and once he's on the road, then you can judge him again. But right now, the kid looks. They call him the monster. They don't call him the monster for nothing, and he hits like a welterweight. That's how it appears. So that's not really a smart move for Nick Ball, because Nick Ball got outboxed by an old man for 4 rounds quite clearly, and he got very, very frustrated. So there's a lot of inexperience there for Nick Ball. I'm not saying he can't improve. I'm not saying he can't get better from where he is. Of course he can. Because when you win a world title, you make adjustments and you improve as a fighter. So we've got to judge Nick Ball by his next fight, maybe not this fight. But there's obviously a lack of discipline in his part, because at one point he seemed to lash out at the guy that he was fighting, whether it was a kick or a knee or whatever. And that should have been a point deduction. I can't imagine Mills Lane not, if he was refereeing that fight, or Richard Steele going to him, you know what, that's okay, I'll turn a blind eye, don't do it again. That would have been a point deduction, and that's what that warranted. However, there wasn't a point deduction, and he got the job done eventually. But what I'm saying is, he struggled against the southpaw, against an old man, and it's there for all to be seen. He wasn't having a look. You can't have a look for 4 rounds. You can't be 4 rounds down in a world title fight. You don't have a look for 4 rounds. You have a look for a round or two, but not four. But the 4 rounds I'm talking about were the first 4 completed rounds, and he was outboxed for those 4 rounds. Luckily for him, the other fella ran out of steam, got tired. His age caught up with him, and he went out on his shield. But Nick Ball was always going to beat him for my money, because he was younger, fresher, and was always going to get him at some point.
Lastly, Duke,
And,
go on.
sorry, one last thing I'll say. It wasn't a bad performance by Nick Ball. It wasn't a bad performance. It was a bit unprofessional at times, and like I say, lashing out. It wasn't a bad performance because, he made the necessary adjustments and put I mean, Nick Ball's that's his style. He's a pressure fighter, and he pressured the other guy, pressured him until he broke ultimately.
Lastly, Duke, we saw, I think it was last week, the WBO ordered Oleksandr Usyk to fight Joseph Parker. We thought maybe Usyk was heading towards a fight with Daniel Dubois for the undisputed. Who do you think at this stage would give Usyk the harder fight? Dubois in a rematch or Joseph Parker?
Fabio Wardley. No, forget those two. Forget those two. Listen, he's going to beat Dubois again. I really like Daniel Dubois. This new and improved version of Daniel Dubois, again, I can't emphasize that point enough. As a box fighter, which is what he is, he's an absolute unit, Daniel Dubois. And with the exception of Oleksandr Usyk, I don't know who's going to beat Dubois. I like Dubois a lot, both as a boxer. I've only met him once as a person, or been in his company once as a person, and that was only fleeting, so I don't know him. Do you see what I mean? I'm just telling you what I do know.
Yeah.
But I don't. Usyk right now, as you know, he's in a league of his own. Nobody's beating him. That guy's going to retire undefeated. However, your man there, Fabio Wardley, he'll give he. Could you imagine him and Daniel Dubois? That would be it. That's a fight. And then somebody that Wardley's fighting for,
WBA regular.
WBA regular, whatever that means. So that puts him right in the picture. But I think the fight they're talking about, or the fight that probably will get made for Joseph Parker, there's only one name on my lips, and I'm sure everybody else's lips, and that has to be AJ. They've got history together, right? Now, AJ's already beaten him once, and Parker will want revenge. If Parker wants a huge payday, who else is he going to fight for that huge payday? Because he's not going to get Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois is going in another direction. He's off the Richter scale. He's not on that one anymore. Daniel Dubois is fighting Usyk. So there's only one other major name that's going to generate him major money, and that's got to be Anthony Joshua in the return fight. Has him to get revenge, or Joshua, it's either repeat or revenge. And I would hazard a guess right now, looking at both these two's careers and the way they've both gone. One guy's career's gone down, the other guy's career's gone up. Now they're going to meet in what we could be deemed as a crossroads fight, certainly for AJ. The question has to be, would AJ take that risk? You know, would he rather hold out and try and get that fight on with the ever evasive, elusive Tyson Fury, stroke unquote? Would that fight ever going to happen? You know, or is it never going to happen? Or is it going to happen in another 5 years when these two are both my age and pensioners? Do you see what I mean? Who knows? Who knows the secret of the black magic box? But I would hazard a guess it would be Parker against AJ, because that's the only fight that makes sense.
Mm. Well, Duke, appreciate your time today with Pro Boxing Fans. Anything you want to add before we finish up?
Next time we come on, I'm going to bring Trevor on, and we can say hello. Like I say, he's so cheeky because what do you think? I'm joking. Once I come in from his walk and I give him his bone and we have a little drink and a little bit of a chat, he takes himself off to bed. And I've been calling him. You heard me call him earlier, right? He's like that. Yeah, right. I'll come when I'm ready. So no, there's you know what? I'm really looking forward to the next season of boxing, because I think we're going to get some epic fights. You know, right across the board, every weight
Joyce
division.
Hrgovic in a couple of weeks.
Sorry.
Joyce against Hrgovic in a couple of weeks.
That's a bad move for Joe Joyce. I don't know why they've taken that fight. It's a bad move. Hrgovic has got a point to prove, and Joe Joyce is an absolute sitting duck. You know it, and I know it. I don't know, unless Joe Joyce is going to have, some sort of magic genie put some special spell on his career where he can change his whole. I listened to an interview recently with Teddy Atlas, and Teddy Atlas said that at one point, when Joe Joyce first turned pro, he wished that he could have worked with him. It's too late now, by the way, because the wheels have come off in Joe Joyce's career, and I don't think you can right that wrong and suddenly put that right. But if that boy could have been refined, then he could have been quite useful in the heavyweight division. And who knows what could have happened? But I think that ship sailed for Joe Joyce. I really do. I think it's really sad. I think he could very potentially become a stepping stone now. If he doesn't win this fight against Hrgovic, he's got to call it off. And I can't see him beating Hrgovic. I really can't.
Well, we will see what happens then. But Duke, yeah, appreciate your time, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Thanks, champ. Thanks again for inviting me on. I appreciate it.